Hello, my Buff 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. You ever have one of those days where you start recording a video, you get about 3 minutes into it, and you realize you never hit the record button? I've done that twice. So I know exactly 3 minutes and 24 seconds worth of this video. Both times. Because both times I've been like, oh, that button down there is not lit up. Well, shit the bed, friend. One of those days. One of those days. Yeah. All right. I don't even know. I don't know what I have said, what I haven't said. I've done this so many times now. Hello, my Bill 1000 Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with a new MrBallen video. This one is titled, His Insane Death Shocked the Country. Yes. So, go ahead, turn the mics down low, put on something comfy, cut up with something special. Let's get shocked. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into the story. I'm excited. Like, the first 3 minutes of it had me like, yeah.
In the winter of
I will say the same thing as I've said the other two times. Excuse me if the enthusiasm for the first 3 minutes and 24 seconds of it isn't there. It's completely my fault, though.
1985, a large American black
1985, story's already starting off with a great start. Sierra Osborne. Boom.
bear was wandering through a forest in Georgia when it saw something strange lying out on the forest floor. Interested, the bear wandered over and began pawing at it and slashing at it, until finally the bear ripped this thing open, and immediately this strange, flowery smell filled the air. Less than 10 minutes later, that bear would experience something that literally no other living thing on Earth has ever experienced. And that is just the beginning of one of the strangest stories that's about to take the world by storm.
Like I said, that part's not in the first 3 minutes and 24 seconds of it, because I still don't know what the hell he's talking about.
Because a major motion picture has been made about this bear that's going to be released in February of 2023. But
now, like I was saying previously, we always watch a movie. We have like a movie marathon on people's birthdays in the house. My little boy's birthday, well, my middle, Junior. His birthday is February 14th, Valentine's Day. Yes. So hopefully it comes out before then so we can watch it. He loves shit like that. Especially if this bear goes like batshit crazy. Because, I mean, evidently, like, his insane death shocked the country. So I imagine either something happens. You know what I mean? Yes, I said this before. And I love movies. I love movies and I love books. I'll go ahead and tell you why. Again, I love movies, I love books. I don't know. I've always been like that. I'm not a big TV show person. Ask my lady, she'll tell you she hates to sit down and watch TV shows with me because I'll get like 3 or 4 episodes into it and I'm done. I don't even care no more. I have ADD, ADHD, and my attention span does not last that long. It's gotta be really, really crazy for me to stay. Even with movies and books, like I can only watch so much of a movie at a time. Like I'll pause it, I'll get up, I'll walk around, I'll come back, and we'll pick up where we left off. We never actually get to sit down and watch it all the way through without me having to do something. It is what it is. It's you get used to it.
before we get into this totally bizarre story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once a week. So, if that's of interest to you, please offer to make the like button a ham and cheese sandwich, but don't unwrap the cheese slices. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications.
That's not something you want to do to someone that's angry.
So you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. Okay, let's get into today's story.
Haven't got to the blank.
In early December of 1985, in the Chattahoochee National Forest in
way down yonder on Chattahoochee. That's right. We're gonna get some Alan Jackson up in this bitch.
northern Georgia, a hunter was very carefully making his way through the trees trying to track a deer. Now, this hunter
Because he never knew what that muddy water meant to him.
Had been tracking this deer for over a mile, but it had been a while since he had seen any signs of it being anywhere nearby. And as this hunter continued to creep along, he became increasingly aware of how loud each of his steps were, because the ground all around him was covered in dry leaves, and so every step he was taking was creating a loud crunching sound. And so eventually this hunter just came to a stop and decided stalking this deer was totally pointless because he was basically scaring it away with these crunching sounds as he got closer to it. But before this hunter was ready to just give up and head back to his vehicle, he continued on a little bit further, and when he pushed through this particularly dense brush area, he saw this clearing up ahead. And the second he saw what was in this clearing, he froze, took a step back into the brush, and then ducked down behind a rock. Because in that clearing,
we only got 1 more minute left, and then I'm going to be in new territory, so I'm excited.
Saw an animal, and it wasn't a deer. It was a huge American black bear. Now, generally speaking, American black bears are not aggressive towards humans.
No, pretty much. I hike, especially whenever I was younger. I'd go hiking all the time, and we do have black bears around here. Black bears, bobcats, mountain lions, all that good shit. Coyotes. Swear sometimes there's even werewolves, but that's a whole other story. I've come across a few black bears, and honestly, like, I've walked up on them, and you freak out, and your first instinct is I should run away. Don't. You act like they don't make a damn to you. You don't make a damn to them. You make sudden movements, they get scared, and they will rip you into pieces. I've came across them in my travels, and I don't curl up in a ball. I don't lay down and play dead. I don't try to make myself bigger than it. I just act like I don't give two shits about it. It is used to things being around it all the time, and it is top of its food chain. There is not much it is worried about. You are no threat to it unless you scare it. So don't freak out, don't panic, and try not to run, because you're not going out and run a black bear. They run actually pretty fast. Last time I actually came across one, it was the back part of Lake Vesuvius. I came in from the Jackson side, not the Ironton side where I was living. And came across one. Like, it looked me dead in my eyes, too. It was like, I was like, oh shit, this is the day I die. I just turned around and started walking away from it. It followed me. It followed me for like a good 20 minutes. I guess, like, what the hell are you? I don't know if it had never ever seen a person before or what, but it followed me for about 15 minutes. I was about ready to shit myself. And then it went down that path, and I kept going on the path I was going. I was sweating bullets. I was going, oh, baby, Jesus, not today. But I'm still here, so.
However, if, for example, you were to accidentally sneak up on a black bear, like this hunter had done, and you suddenly startled it by just showing your presence, the bear might react by pouncing on you and ripping you to bits. And so this hunter, with his back pressed up against the rock and his rifle gripped tightly across his chest, he's thinking about that and wondering what he's going to do to get out of this situation. At first he thought, okay, I'll just stand up and quietly walk away. But then he remembered how loud the leaves were, and even though he had been lucky walking in, he hadn't alerted the bear to his presence, on the way out, he was worried
10 more seconds.
He wouldn't be so lucky that those leaves would alert the bear to his position. And so the hunter began thinking, okay, well, what if I just stand up and start
Boom. Okay. 3 minutes 22 seconds into this is where I was like, no, don't shoot. Oh shit.
shooting at this bear. But the hunter knew the big issue with that plan is he had a deer hunting rifle, which is not nearly powerful enough to quickly take down a black bear, if at all. And so if he starts shooting at this bear, there was a very good chance that the bear would just turn around and maul him before he was able to put the bear down with his rifle. And so as this hunter is going through these scenarios behind the rock, he realizes something. He hasn't
And you need like a 38, just straight to the face.
heard this bear at all. Now, bears in general are very loud animals. Just their regular breathing is so guttural and noisy that you can hear it a pretty good distance away. And the hunter's thinking to himself, I can't hear it breathing. And come to think of it, I haven't heard this bear once since I've been near it. And so the hunter very carefully stood up from behind his rock and turned around, and then he kind of peered forward into the brush, looking back into this clearing, and when he spotted the bear again, he realized immediately the bear was dead. The bear was kind of slumped forward, and its body almost looked like a deflated balloon. The hunter was so relieved, he almost started laughing, and so he stepped out from behind his rock and he made his way through the brush into the clearing to get a better look at this bear. And when the hunter was right over the top of this bear looking down at it, something immediately struck him as very odd. This bear was far too young to have died of natural causes. However, after this hunter kind of poked and prodded the bear and lifted it up on either side,
I'm sorry. I don't think I'd have the balls to do that. Even if I thought it was dead, no, my damn luck, some bitch just had like narcolepsy or something, and no. I don't know if bears can get narcolepsy, and I don't want to be that son of a bitch that finds out, okay? I'm just saying. Fuck no. This dude is dumb. Does a bear die in the woods? Hell yeah, but I ain't poking it.
to try to look underneath it, he couldn't see any visible injuries. It was like this bear had just randomly dropped dead. But the hunter didn't spend much time thinking about what happened to this bear. Instead, he thought to himself, there has to be some sort of logical explanation for what killed it. And with one last look at the bear on the ground, the hunter turned around and began the long walk back through the woods back to his vehicle. It would turn out there was an explanation for what happened to that bear. However, it was anything but logical. But to get to that non-logical explanation, we first have to go back in time. Around 11:30 p.m.
Time travel, it's my favoriteest thing in the world.
on September 10th, 1985, so 3 months before the hunter discovered this dead bear, two pilots were flying their little 6-seater Cessna airplane over northern Georgia, making their way north towards Tennessee. And as these pilots flew along very casually, they suddenly intercepted over their radio a voice message that they definitely were not supposed to hear. It sounded like other pilots communicating with each other, and what they were talking about was how they were now going to follow this little Cessna airplane that they could see that was currently flying over northern Georgia. Now, radio traffic like this can only really be intercepted if your radio that's doing the intercepting is physically close to the person doing the transmitting. And so knowing this, the two pilots in this little Cessna knew that whoever was talking about following that little Cessna, they had to be talking about them, the two pilots in that Cessna. Now, for most pilots, if you suddenly
I'm sorry, MrBallen. Once again, I have a bad habit of pausing on horrible FaceTime. Okay, was they doing something illegal to where someone needed to follow them? B, was they flying over restricted airspace? C, do they have like sky pirates? Like, I mean, are they worried that an airplane's going to pull up next to them? Someone's going to swing over on a rope and take them over? I mean, I'm, I, I'm just wondering, like, why are you freaking out, my dude? Are you doing something illegal? Or they're doing shady shit.
overheard a radio transmission that your plane was getting followed by some other pilots, you might reach out to those pilots and say, hey, Why are you following me? What's going on? Now, the co-pilot of this little Cessna might have wanted to react that way. However, before he could, the main pilot stopped him and said, I actually know exactly why somebody might want to tail us, and unfortunately, we're both going to have to jump out of this plane. Before the co-pilot could really even react to this news, the main pilot had set the Cessna on autopilot, which sets the plane to fly in a straight direction, going at a constant speed, at a constant altitude, until either a pilot comes back and takes the craft back over, or if it just stays on autopilot, it eventually will run out of fuel and crash or run into something. And so after the main pilot had done that, he turned to the co-pilot and gestured for him to come with him into the main cabin of the aircraft, basically the main
Is this like some DB Cooper shit? Oh my god, I'm loving it.
main body of the
We got bears, planes, shady ass pilots. Oh god.
craft where all their luggage was, and the co-pilot, he's so confused about what's happening, he's so panicked that he just follows the main pilot. So the two of them, they climb back over the two front seats, they go into the main body of the craft, and the main pilot begins strapping parachutes onto some of their luggage, and as he's doing this, he tells the co-pilot to open up the side door of the plane. And so again, the co-pilot is just so caught off guard, he has no idea how to handle this, and so he reaches over and he slides open this door of this moving plane. And as soon as he did, this huge rush of cold night air blasted inside of the cabin, and it became so loud from the howling wind coming in that the two pilots couldn't even talk to each other. And then the main pilot just began pushing the luggage out of the plane just into the night, falling straight down to the ground far, far below them. And at some point, the co-pilot just joined him and began pushing the luggage out of the plane. And then after all the luggage was out, the main pilot shoved a parachute into the hands of the co-pilot and said, put it on. He had to gesture for it because they couldn't hear each other. And so as this co-pilot's struggling to get on his parachute, the main pilot puts on his chute, and then right after the co-pilot has just barely got his parachute on, the main pilot pushes him out the side of the plane, and then the main pilot jumps out after him. So they basically abandoned their plane, which was still set to autopilot, so at some point, it was just going to crash. About 5 hours later, in a suburb of Knoxville, Tennessee, an 85-year-old man named Fred Myers was just waking up. Fred always got up before sunrise. It was part of his daily routine. He would wake up, he would get dressed, he would wash and shave his face, and then he would sit down and read the local newspaper. This simple routine was actually very important to Fred because recently he had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which is a progressive
That's what I was about to say, because people with Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that, a strict routine helps tremendously. My grandmother, she had dementia. She had Lewy body's dementia. I took care of her for 8 years. And routines, no matter how little the routine may be, just different routines made things so much easier for her. And I was about to say it was either Alzheimer's or dementia.
disease that destroys memory.
Yeah.
And so having this sort of set routine helped him manage his symptoms. Basically, at least in the morning, he could go into autopilot and go through this routine and not get confused. However, on this particular morning, something would happen that would leave Fred more confused than he had ever been in his entire life. Fred had made it to his bathroom, he had washed his face, and he had begun shaving when out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something strange outside in his driveway. He could see it through a nearby window, but it was still so dark outside, Fred couldn't tell what this thing was out there. And so feeling very curious, Fred put his razor blade down and he made his way over to the window to get a better look. And when he reached the window and looked out at his driveway and saw what this strange thing was, he could not believe his eyes. There was this huge parachute out on his driveway, and on the parachute was the main pilot of the Cessna. After the main pilot had pushed the co-pilot out and leapt out himself, when he pulled his ripcord, his chute either didn't deploy, or when it deployed, it didn't inflate fully, and so he was forced to go to his reserve chute, but it didn't inflate fast enough to stop him from crashing into the ground. And so the main pilot slammed into the ground, basically at terminal velocity, and so he sustained catastrophic internal injuries.
He fucking died, bro. Don't pussy shit foot around it. He's dead.
and he died within a couple of minutes of hitting the ground. Fred was so stunned and confused at what he was looking at that without saying a word, he just turned away from his window and walked over to his phone and called the police, shaving cream still on his face. When the police arrived,
He needs to change the title of this to "This is fucking real, bro." Don't. What? This sounds like some kind of weird ass movie. I mean, it makes sense on why they're making it a movie. Like, they're not going to have to digress from the story at fucking all. What the
arrived at Fred's house that morning, they were expecting to see a dead recreational skydiver on
hell?
Fred's property. But when they walked up the driveway and saw the dead man for themselves, they knew right away this was
Real photo of Fred's driveway. Oh, good golly, Miss Molly.
not some recreational skydiver. He actually looked more like a soldier. He was wearing a bulletproof vest over some camouflage fatigues, and he had night vision goggles strapped to his head. But the dead man's shoe choice made the police think this guy could not possibly have been military, because on this guy's feet were not military-style combat boots like you would expect with the rest of his getup. Instead, he was wearing loafers, specifically Gucci loafers, so very expensive designer shoes. And so the police are thinking to themselves, who the heck was this guy and what was he doing? The police would figure that out. However, first, we have to fast forward 2 months to late November 1985, so roughly 2 weeks before that bear was discovered by that hunter in Chattahoochee National Forest.
My God, it's all three movies of Back to the Future.
Now, at this point, in late November, that black bear was alive and well and living a typical black bear life in the Chattahoochee National Forest, which meant he mostly spent his time wandering around the woods looking for something to eat. And on this particular day in November, the bear was doing just that when out of the corner of his eye, he spotted something strange lying on the forest floor. It was one of the pieces of luggage that the two pilots had pushed out of their plane. It was this big, heavy duffel bag. Now, the bear had no idea if this duffel bag contained food, but the bear was optimistic, so it meandered its way over and began pawing at the bag with its massive claws, and pretty much immediately, his claws tore open a hole in this bag. And suddenly, the air all around this bear was filled with this glorious, flowery smell, so the bear put its nose directly into this rip in the bag and began sniffing and licking the contents of this bag. And apparently, the bear just loved it because it ate whatever was inside of the bag. All of it. And when he was done, the bear felt so good, he was so full of energy that he just started sprinting in a straight direction. And after running at top speed about 100 yards, every major system inside of this bear shut down all at once and he died on the spot, collapsing in that clearing. And then, about 2 weeks later, that hunter walked into the Chattahoochee National Forest and discovered this dead bear. And then, within 24 hours, the hunter was back home and he told one of his friends about discovering this dead bear. And when he told his friend about seeing this bear, he also kind of casually mentioned that he had seen a duffel bag in the forest not far from this dead bear. Now, to understand what this friend did next, you need some context. By this point in time, the police had actually figured out a lot about that dead man on Fred Myers' driveway, the main pilot of the Cessna. They knew he was a 40-year-old man named Andrew Thornton who had served in the U.S. Army as a paratrooper, but after getting out of the service, he had kind of gone astray in his life and become a big-time smuggler of illegal goods. The police had also figured out by this point that Andrew, along with a co-pilot, had been the people flying that Cessna that eventually was found crashed into a mountainside in North Carolina. The co-pilot had survived the jump out of the Cessna, and so the police
This is some crazy shit, y'all. What?
Police tracked him down, and they very quickly realized this co-pilot was really just a victim of Andrew. Andrew had told this guy they were just going to fly to the Bahamas for a vacation. And so when that plan completely evaporated, and suddenly Andrew is barking orders at this guy to open up the plane and push the luggage out and jump out, the co-pilot said he just totally panicked and just started doing whatever Andrew wanted. And so this guy was just totally terrified, and really all he could offer police was just to confirm that, yup, Andrew was the main pilot, and yes, we really did push his luggage out of the side of the plane over some forest in northern Georgia. The police believed the co-pilot and did not charge him with any crime. The police would go and search all over northern.
This poor dude was just like a patsy. Like but that's some shit, man. That's not how you treat friends.
Georgia, and they would find the majority of the missing bags. However, they knew they were still missing some, and they knew they really needed to recover them. And so, around the time that this hunter is telling his friend about this bear encounter and this duffel bag, the police were constantly having news outlets tell people in northern Georgia that if you see one of these duffel bags attached to a big parachute or something, please come forward and tell us. We are looking for these. And so the hunter's friend thought, you know what? That duffel bag he mentioned out in Chattahoochee National Forest, which is in northern Georgia, might be one of those bags. And so the friend called authorities.
Yeah, no shit.
Authorities were thrilled to get this tip, and so they charged out to the Chattahoochee National Forest, and they made their way out to where this dead bear was. And then sure enough, about 100 yards away from this bear was this bag, and it was one of the bags they were missing. Except the bag was empty, because, as we already know, that black bear had eaten everything inside of this bag.
What the fuck
and
was
as you
it?
might have guessed, that bag, along with every other bag that had been cast out of the Cessna that night, was full of cocaine.
Oh, that poor fucking bear. Yeah, yeah, fuck. Yeah, the poor thing had a duffel bag full of cocaine. Cocaine, bro. That's a lot of cocaine. That bear was feeling amazing until it died. But I bet that bear was just like, yeah, bro. Yeah. Look how fast I'm going, mama. Oh, sweet baby Jesus.
Because Andrew was a drug smuggler. And on the night, he and his co-pilot leapt from the
Cocaine smells like flowers? Ain't that what he said? Like this flower smell like amazing flower? I don't know. I don't know what cocaine smells like. I've never smelled cocaine.
Cessna, he was trying to smuggle 900 pounds of cocaine from South America into the United States. That transmission that Andrew and the co-pilot
That's some money right there, though. I know math.
suddenly overheard on their radio as they were cruising along in their Cessna was the sound of federal agents within the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency who had been tipped off about Andrew's big drug run, and so they really had sent 2 planes to go follow him and potentially intercept him. And so the authorities standing in the Chattahoochee National Forest looking down at this empty duffel bag had no idea where the cocaine went that was supposed to be inside of it.
So they found
But
the bear.
on a hunch, they decided to bring the body of the dead black bear back with them and perform an autopsy on it. And sure enough, during this autopsy, the medical examiner would open up the bear's stomach, and the examiner would say the stomach was, quote, packed to the brim with cocaine, thus ending the mystery of how this bear died. It died from a massive, massive cocaine overdose. But the bear story did not end there. Normally, after an animal is autopsied, they are cremated. But for some reason, this medical examiner decided not to do that, and instead, he had the bear taxidermied, and then he gifted this taxidermied bear to the Chattahoochee River National Recreation Area. And then from there, the bear changed hands many times. Over the next 2 decades, no one knows exactly who had the bear and for what reason, but there were reports that at least at one point it was stolen from a storage facility, and then it was sold at a pawn shop, and then at some point the bear was in the possession of famous country singer Waylon Jennings, and then finally the
That I can believe.
bear found its forever home. Today, the bear is on display at the Kentucky Fun Mall in Lexington, Kentucky, and around its neck is a placard that reads, Cocaine Bear.
AKA Pablo Escobar. Oh, here sits Cocaine Bear. In 1985, Cocaine Bear was found dead in the Chattahoochee National Forest. He overdosed on 40 kilos of cocaine dropped by Andrew Thornton. You might remember Andrew from the Bluegrass Conspiracy. Do not, don't do drugs. You will end up dead and maybe stuffed like poor Cocaine Bear. AKA Pablo Escobar. That's too much. Oh, fuck.
So that's going to do it. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please offer to make the like button.
That was fucking great. We had time travel. We had play on words. He made punnies. Oh god. Oh, amazing. Oh, Cocaine Bear. I felt so bad for that poor bear. I mean, I bet it was fucking living balls to the wall though, bro. Like for however many minutes it was alive until it just oh, just goes to show you people, if you're going to smuggle drugs, I mean, don't just throw it out of your plane. You never know what's going to eat it. Oh. All right. If you all enjoyed today's video as much as I did, please leave a thumbs up. If you're a fan of the spooky, scary, strange, deranged Pablo Escobar, think about subscribing. Oh, oh, that brought tears. That definitely brought tears. Oh shit. All right. Together one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Oh, I never heard of this before. I'm so glad I got to hear it like this. This made my whole freaking day. Hey, boo boo. No, it's Pablo Escobar now.